I was forced out of the closet. My name is TJ Schimmold. I'm a master pro coach and help people who are coming out later in life. It seems when you're coming out, people think it's a one-time process. And it's actually a continuous process. I first had to admit it to myself. That was a hard step. And the second person I talked to was my best friend, who happened to be my wife. And it wasn't until a rather severe car accident that made that the priority in my life, is to let her know. We decided to have an open marriage. She had encouraged me to, well, if you think you might be gay, then why don't you try it? And so we had an open marriage for a while, and then it closed, and it opened, and we went back and forth for over 10 years before we finally ended up separating and divorcing. And for a long time, it was just me and my wife who knew. Anyone involved was the only people that needed to know. One of our rules was that we would be very open and honest about it, of who we were seeing, where we were going, of all of that. And one of the things that I feared is that, well, what if the person I go out with wants more of my attention, or falls in love with me, or what if I fall in love with them? And this was one of the kind of odd occurrences in my brain. And one day I met a man, very different than the others. Typically it was just casual hookups and that was it. Well, this guy was the first one who we met at a coffee shop and began talking and sharing our lives, and he had a lot of questions for me, and we really hit it off. We're compatible on a number of different levels. I quickly started having feelings for him. He treated me so differently than I've ever been treated before. Very romantic, very interested in what I was saying, very emotional, very, all the things. And we even started talking about having a business together. I'm a magician, do magic shows, very interested in, had a deep love for animals, and so he started collecting animals to be part of the magic show, that we could go into schools or libraries with the animals and talk about the animals and do magic and educate and all of that. And so this was wonderful, and I brought my magic over to his place, and we would practice things, and I let him borrow some of my costumes, and I even spent the night at his place. And he became very deeply part of my life, and he ended up coming to our house and meeting my wife, meeting our daughter, meeting the cat, who did not like him. The cat sat on the steps. We were in a split level and really would not let this guy come into the house. That should have been a sign. He went to a magic show with me. He ended up turning out to be a literal psychopath. He threatened to out me, to blackmail me. What was amazing was our whole relationship, though it felt like we were together for an eternity, it was less than a month that he worked his way into our lives, found my strengths and weaknesses, played upon those, and as he threatened to out me, my wife and I sat down and said, well, let's do this ourselves and get ahead of this. And so she went onto Facebook and did a simple post. I am proud of my bisexual husband. And I did the same post. My wife is proud of her bisexual husband. And that was it. The guy ended up disappearing literally in the middle of the night, was just gone from our area. I ended up tracing him into another state. I dove into researching about psychopaths and all of that. My background is in clinical psychology. I recognized some of the things when I could kind of step back a little bit. And so I dove into all the literature and all of that, and, I was determined that this would never happen to me and my family again. But I share this with you because this was a forcing of me out of the closet. I identify now as gay. Back then, I was still married, and still it was hard for me to say gay to myself at that time. And this basically outed me to all of our friends, all of our family, all at once. Had tough conversations with my mother. It was all good. I run a nonprofit called the Vanishing Wheelchair that we work with people with disabilities and teach them skills in the arts. So they look at the ability rather than the disability. And we ended up having one of our board members being very upset about this revelation. We had a huge meeting with my wife sitting beside me, and she could not fathom how the head, the founder and president of a nonprofit could be anything but straight. And this would be detrimental to the nonprofit, that nobody would ever want to donate money to a nonprofit that was headed by a gay guy. The board discussed it, and we heard everything, and I went into it thinking that this would be the end, and it was for that one board member. She decided to leave. The rest all supported me. One of my best friends, who was my co-founder, was very upset with me. And he wasn't upset because I was gay or bisexual. He was upset that I didn't feel comfortable telling him. And I tried to explain at the time that I could barely tell myself. This was all very new. This was all very... But I'm so glad he knew now. I'm so glad my parents knew. I'm so glad friends and family knew. And all the stories I had told myself, of all the people that I would lose, that they would all hate me and all of that, I ended up really losing one person. And I found the support of other people that I had no idea that they would support me. And I share this with you because trying to live in a way that's not authentically you is difficult, because there are always these stories and these lies and things that have to be hidden. And it was such a relief to put it out into the world and just let them know, this is me. I realized that in all of this, it took a near-death experience in this car accident for me to finally tell my wife. It took the near destruction of me and my family by a psychopath for me to come out. It shouldn't take these dramatic moments to be able to have the strength to step forward and say, this is me. If you need help with this is what I do. I offer a one-on-one free 5-day clarity challenge to meet you where you're at, to help create a compass to where you need to go. I do one-on-one programs with people as well that want to work deeper. So do look at the link, because this is something that I did not have someone next to me to take my hand, to pull me through this journey. I had to have these dramatic and traumatic moments of my life to be able to push me forward. And I do what I do now because I don't think anyone needs to be pushed. I think we all just need a helping hand. Always remember, embrace your magic and live your dreams.